Hey everyone, it's Raf. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am very excited to be discussing with you the top 15 books on my non-fiction reading list. I am not the biggest reader of non-fiction. It is a genre that I have to encourage myself to reach for, and so I thought it would be interesting to put together a list of all of the non-fiction books that I have read and loved, and also of the non-fiction books that I've heard of and have an interest in reading, hopefully soon. So hopefully this video is helpful for other readers who are also trying to get into the non-fiction genre. If you are a reader of non-fiction, please be sure to leave your recommendations below. I would be very curious to check out what you're reading as well. I'm currently surrounded by all of the books I'm going to talk about, and there are a lot of them, so I think I will be as fast as possible with each synopsis so that this video does not end up being an hour long. The first book that I'm going to talk about is Educated by Tara Westover. This is Tara's memoir recounting her growing up and also growing out of the Mormon church. Her father was one of the priest figureheads, I guess you could say, within the religion, and so this is her tale of seeking an education by herself to free herself from the cult experience that she was growing up in. The next book is a mythological non-fiction, and that is Stephen Fry's Troy. The name gives it away. This basically recounts the tale of Troy, and I love Stephen Fry's mythological non-fiction books. I got into non-fiction actually by reading the audiobooks of Mythos and Heroes. Stephen Fry has a really good way of narrating these stories to bring the characters and their tales to life. So I think this genre of non-fiction makes it a lot easier to transition into the genre. So if you are someone who is a big fantasy reader, I would highly recommend starting off with a non-fiction book that looks into myths or ancient history. On that note, I'm going to recommend Mary Beard's SPQR because this is a little bit different. This does not look at myth, instead it looks at the tales of the four emperors that followed Augustus. So that's Tiberius, Claudius, Caligula, and Nero. And even though it doesn't follow myth necessarily, it's just as outrageous, just as exciting as any other ancient non-fiction book would be, and it's something that you can work your way through slowly, so I highly recommend. Next up is another memoir, and that is Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking, and this looks into the American writer's year of analysing, I guess you could say, her marriage and her relationship with her children. So this is a domestic memoir that is kind of introspective. I've heard really great things about this, so I'm very excited to give it a try. Next up is a collection of short stories, and that is Emergency Sex and Other Desperate Measures. This is a collection of essays written by a journalist, a lawyer, and a doctor who were deployed by the United Nations across the world in war zones. And it basically tells their tales, their experiences, trying to do something to help the world, to give back, but realizing the helplessness. All of the narrators are very down to earth, very able to grapple with big themes through narrow experiences that normal people like us wouldn't experience in our everyday life. So I highly recommend this one, very eye-opening. Next up is a history non-fiction book called Low Life, The Lures and Snares of Old New York. I love this book. I guess you could say it's a very truthful ode to the city of New York and the greed and the emotion and I guess the desperation that filled the streets to bring it to be what it is today. I'm not sure if that makes sense. Give this a read, it's fantastic. Next up is another introspective family memoir, and that is The Glass Castle by Jeannette. My friend recommended I read this, and she said it was one of the saddest things she's ever read. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. She said the ending is happy sad. Do with that information what you will, but this is a memoir looking into Jeannette dysfunctional but unique family life. The next book on my list is This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends by Nicole Perloth, and that's an investigation into the black market for cyber arms and the cyber race and war that the author thinks our world is heading in the direction of. So this is very, very interesting. I actually can't wait to get into this one. The next book is similarly an investigation into the black market, and that is Blood Gun Money. This looks at the black market that supplies gangs and cartels in the US with weaponry. The next book on my list is an important one, and that is Factfulness by Rosling. This book basically looks at the importance of presenting your opinions or your arguments with unquestionable fact. Next up is Our Women on the Ground, which is a collection of essays by female journalists around the Middle East. I've read a few of these short essays and so far they're brilliant, and so I'm very excited to pick this up and finish it soon. The next book I've got is Our Man in New York, and this is looking at British propaganda to bring the US into the Second World War. The next non-fiction book I'd like to get to is The Grey Men Pursuing the Stasi into the Present. This is by Ralph Hope, who is an ex-FBI agent, and it basically follows the story of Stasi spies after the fall of the Berlin Wall. The next book is one that I'm actually currently reading, and that is Bad Blood. This is a thriller investigation into Elizabeth Holmes' stories. She is a startup entrepreneur who conned the entirety of Silicon Valley and American pharmaceutical companies into thinking that she had created a revolutionary blood technology that would make her a billionaire. And so basically it's a deep dive into her failure as an entrepreneur, as a leader, and the way she manipulated so many people to try and achieve her dream of being a billionaire. And the last book on this list is The Education of an Idealist by Samantha Power. I am so excited for this book. It's basically the memoir of the US ambassador to the UN under Barack Obama. And that is it for my collection of non-fiction books that I've either read and enjoyed or would like to get to soon. I hope this super speedy talk through of these books gives you some ideas on what to read next if you're looking to get into the non-fiction genre. Again, if you have any recommendations yourself, please be sure to leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!